Hello Internet viewers, I'm the Fairly Odd Gamer. Let me tell you about a little toy franchise called LEGO. Created in 1949 in a place called Denmark, a group of people thought that young kids would enjoy building stuff with tiny toy bricks that can connect to each other. And surprisingly, this little toy franchise is still going strong for 75 years. It's collaborated with numerous franchises, had multiple movies and TV shows, with LEGO Batman being my all-time favorite, and even its own theme park. As a kid, I love Legos. It's always fun to build anything I can think of as long as I put my mind into it. As for its video games, the only game I remember owning as a kid was LEGO Harry Potter Years 1 through 4 on the Wii. Only because, well, I was a big Harry Potter fan back in those days. But regardless, I'm glad that LEGO is still as popular as ever. Not just kids, but also with young adults. And as you can see, I finally managed to change my shirt for the time being. I say this because just recently, I received an unexpected visitor in the last video, and surprisingly, he is still here.
And I have a question for you, Lucas.
Alright, shoot.
Have you ever played any of the LEGO Star Wars games?
Well, I remember playing one of them years ago, but I never really got far into it.
Really? Well, if that's the case, I really want to show it to you in its entirety, and here's why. The LEGO Star Wars games are actually what got me into Star Wars to begin with, because like I said in a previous video, I wasn't really interested in the movies upon first seeing clips of them, but I did enjoy LEGO toys as well as LEGO video games at the time, so that's why I was willing to give this game a try. And after experiencing this fun LEGO version of the movies, I decided to give the actual movies a try, and I actually enjoyed them way more than when I first saw them, and that's when I truly became a fan of this galaxy far, far away.
How interesting. Alright, sounds fun. By the way, where's Shadowflare?
Welcome, young gamers. I've been expecting you.
Seth, what did you do to him?
Oh, nothing. He simply embraced the true power of the Force.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them.
You'll find I'm full of surprises.
Dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
Okay, but just please don't do any weird Force tricks on me.
As you wish.
Thank you, Seth. So, in your expertise, which LEGO Star Wars game should we talk about?
Let's go with LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga. For context, it was originally two video games. LEGO Star Wars the video game in 2005, and LEGO Star Wars 2, the original trilogy, in 2006. In 2007, these two games will be combined into one, and thus becoming LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga.
Not to be confused with LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga.
Sounds good to me. By the way, Shadowflare, I never knew you were a Star Wars fan.
Oh yeah, I've been into the series since I was like 9. I grew up in the late 90s. Around that time, the prequel trilogy was making the rounds, so awareness of the series was at an all-time high. I remember seeing some ads for Revenge of the Sith when it was coming out on DVD and being interested in what I saw. After watching the movie, my mind was blown. I was captivated by the dark story, well-developed characters, and epic sci-fi action. I went out of my way to watch every film in the series up to that point, after which I became a true fan. The first one I saw in theaters, actually, was The Force Awakens. At the time, I thought it was awesome, but my opinion on it, and honestly the modern era of the series in general, has kind of soured over time. I think we all know what a disaster The Rise of Skywalker was. Though that's not to say it's all been bad. I thoroughly enjoyed Rogue One, Visions, and Jedi Fallen Order. When it comes to video games, I've definitely played the field. Battlefront, Revenge of the Sith, and Force Unleashed are some of the best games I've ever played, frankly. The first Star Wars game I really got into, though, was LEGO Star Wars. Specifically, LEGO Star Wars 2, the original trilogy.
Okay, I get it now. I can see that the Force is very much strong in you.
You bet.
With that said, LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga. Is it a good game? Let's find out.
Oh, this is going to be easy.
This is where the fun begins.
Besides reaffirming that this is a LucasArts property, we also see that Traveler's Tales developed this game. Yep, the very same Traveler's Tales that always like to pop up in my channel, whether it's a Disney tie-in game like Toy Story 1 and 2, and even a game I covered twice. You probably know which one. A Sonic game for the Saturn like Sonic 3D Blast and Sonic R, or other games like Mickey Mania and Bram Stoker's Dracula.
And then Traveler's Tales will become known for LEGO games for the rest of time.
And fun fact, the director for this game is John Burton. Not only did he work on all those games that Lucas mentioned, but he also made an unofficial director's cut for the Sega Genesis version of Sonic 3D Blast.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, a title screen appears. When you first start the game, you immediately start playing as Qui-Gon Jinn, and also joining the party is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Hello there.
The game can be played with 1 or 2 players, but keep in mind that if you decide to play it with the latter option, both players must share the same screen, so you can't leave each other too far behind. Unlike the original versions of LEGO Star Wars, the Complete Saga allows you to play the game online with a friend, but unfortunately, despite us clearly having our own screen, the game still forces both players to stay together, and I don't get that because it clearly hinders both players. More on that later.
And if you're wondering why the other player is moving a bit unnaturally, that's because there's a bit of delay for the other player when playing the game online. Again, more on that later.
The game's hub world is none other than the Mos Eisley Cantina on planet Tatooine, complete with Biff Band. It's here where you're able to select which of the 6 movies you'd like to play through. When you first start the game, you're only given access to Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. But when you finish the first chapter of that episode, you'll then have access to every other episode, allowing you to play them in any order you want.
But for the sake of this video, we'll be going through each episode in chronological order. And of course, we start off with Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Each episode is divided into 6 chapters, so we talk about each one as we go along. So, Chapter 1.
I'm done. Let's play the not study game.
No, we're not doing that. Chapter 1 is actually titled Negotiations. Whenever you start a chapter, you get an opening crawl just like in the movies, but not quite the same ones though. While they do look similar, it doesn't use the exact same words as in the movies.
For example, the opening crawl for Revenge of the Sith in this game doesn't start with WAR like it does in the movie.
Also, I like to think of the movie-based LEGO games as seeing condensed versions of the movies but in LEGO form, like the Harry Potter LEGO games. Chapter 1 has you play through the scene in which Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan
Hello there.
need to escape the Trade Federation battleship after the very short negotiations. You use the control stick to move your character around, A to jump, X to attack, and Y to switch to another character if needed, like the tab feature in 2 of the levels from Finding Nemo. Finally, the B button allows you to build, put on your weapon, or use the Force if you're a Jedi or Sith.
While you're wielding a lightsaber, you can either simply mash the attack button for a basic combo, or you can time your attacks, allowing you to perform a different lightsaber combo that also deals more damage to most enemies. Holding down the attack button will allow you to block with your lightsaber, but timing your lightsaber attacks is how you reflect blaster bolts right back at the enemy.
And whenever you build or restore any parts of the environment, a bunch of LEGO coins called studs fly out. Not only are the studs this game's currency, but these studs can also help you fill up a gold meter on the top center of your screen. When you fill up to 100%, you will gain the true Jedi status. More on that later.
Ah yes, the true path to becoming a true Jedi. Money.
True Jedi? More like true Sith.
Greed never fails to motivate.
Also scattered throughout each level are 10 LEGO objects called mini-kits. Collecting them will form a miniature version of various LEGO Star Wars vehicles. Some of which don't even have a regular LEGO version of the game. Each chapter also has a hidden red brick. Collecting these will also unlock certain extra abilities to either enhance the gameplay or even serve as cheat codes in a sense. So back to Chapter 1, you run into a protocol droid called TC-14. I say this because throughout each chapter are specific panels that can only be activated by certain types of characters. In the case of TC-14, you can activate these specific panels only accessible to protocol droids. These panels mostly serve just to open a door or other means of progression. It's also worth mentioning that some chapters will transition to other rooms in said chapter. And if you're playing this game online, then you'll have to wait a few seconds before it fully loads so that both players are synced up. The main goal of each chapter is very simple: get to the end or defeat a boss at the end. Whenever you finish a chapter, you'll not only unlock free play as well as certain characters and vehicles, you'll also earn gold bricks for either finishing the chapter, collecting every mini-kit in said chapter, or filling up the True Jedi status meter. These gold bricks are used for unlocking some bonus missions. More on that later. But if you manage to collect 60 gold bricks, you'll also earn a bonus 100,000 LEGO studs for every gold brick you obtain from that point onward.
Except for the ones you can buy at the shop.
Moving on to Chapter 2, Invasion of Naboo. After landing on the planet Naboo, we see Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan
Hello there.
end up meeting who is considered one of the most infamous characters in the entire Star Wars universe, Jar Jar Binks.
And because the developers knew how disliked he is among the fan base, they included an achievement for destroying him 20 times. Crowd pleaser.
While Jar Jar can't attack, his only special ability is jumping higher than most characters, and you have to use that ability for various parts of the chapter in order to finish it. At the end of the chapter, we finally make it to the underwater Gungan city. Also, is it just me, or does Boss Nass look like the Grinch?
Well, he is a mean one after all.
You no thinking you greater than the Gungans? Me sir like this. Maybe we being friends? Wait, what am I even saying? On to Chapter 3, Escape from Naboo. It's here where we play as Queen Amidala and her loyal protector, Captain Panaka.
These are the first characters you play as that use blasters as a weapon. Simply press the attack button to shoot at enemies. With good timing, you can also dodge incoming blaster fire. You can also directly attack enemies with melee attacks when you're close enough. Keep in mind that both of these two actions only work with specific characters though. For example, Queen Amidala can use melee attacks, but she doesn't have the dodge maneuver like Captain Panaka. These moves also weren't in the original LEGO Star Wars, and were first added in LEGO Star Wars 2, the original trilogy. This is also the first chapter to introduce grapple points. If your character has a blaster equipped, you can use these grapple points to get to another area from high up or far away.
After reaching the end, the group manages to escape Naboo aboard the Queen's Royal Starship, which then leads to the next chapter, Mos Espa Pod Race. The group lands on the planet Tatooine that is
coarse and rough and irritating.
and gets everywhere. It's here where we meet Anakin Skywalker and play through the pod race. And by the way, this is the first vehicle mission of the game. We'll get to some of the others later. For this one, it's an on-rails 3-lap race across the planet Tatooine while trying to avoid obstacles and fly over boost pads. Boost pad! As soon as you reach the final lap, you need to make sure you stay ahead of Sebulba when you cross the finish line. Otherwise, you have to start that lap over. But on the bright side, at least this level is handled much better here than the original version.
For context, the level was much harder in the original LEGO Star Wars game. Not only was the control more stiff, but the track was divided into 3 different sections. Furthermore, each section had a time limit that would force you to start the section over if it expired. But the worst part is that if your pod racer blows up, you also start the section over again, because whenever your character dies, you simply respawn in the location you died in. But for this level, and 2 other levels we'll get to later, getting blown up forces you to start a section over again. It's especially annoying if 2 players are playing, since the other surviving player gets taken back along with the other player. As a result, we couldn't finish the original version of this level and gave up.
But let's just go ahead and move on, as Anakin manages to finish the race and win the prize money needed for the ship's new hyperdrive.
Now in the movie, the group head to the planet Coruscant where Anakin is examined by the Jedi Council, and we also see the Galactic Senate and Chancellor General Zod Valorum.
Kneel before Valorum! You will bow before Chancellor Valorum! Kneel!
However, that's completely skipped in the game. But to be fair, I don't think Galactic C-SPAN would have made for a very fun video game.
As a result, we jump to Chapter 5, Retake the Palace. This is the first chapter that allows you to ride in vehicles that sometimes appear in the chapter. Every character can ride them except Protocol and Astromech droids. In the case of this chapter, we get to use a Naboo speeder that has a turret on the back. This is also the first chapter where we get to use R2-D2, who can access Astromech panels. These function pretty much the same as Protocol droid panels. Also introduced in this chapter are these small hatches that can only be accessed by small characters. In the case of this chapter, young Anakin Skywalker. However, Anakin still has the same leg type as every other LEGO character despite a smaller version existing. A bit odd if you ask me. At the end of the chapter, we rescue 6 Naboo pilots and Anakin climbs into a Naboo starfighter and takes to the skies.
And originally, the next level was supposed to be where Anakin flies the Naboo starfighter. However, this level was cut from the original LEGO Star Wars video game. But despite that, a fully finished version of that level was included in the Complete Saga as a bonus level, though instead of being on rails like it was originally going to be, it instead allows you to fly in any horizontal direction. More on that later.
So because that level was cut, Chapter 6 instead acts as the final chapter of the episode, Darth Maul. And please do yourself a favor, don't play this level online like we did, because this level requires godlike reflexes and perfect timing as you use the Force to toss the objects right back at Darth Maul when he throws them at you. But the lag not only makes it much harder to tell when you use the Force, but I swear there are also some input lag as well. We both tried pressing and holding the Force button several times during this section, but nothing would happen. Seriously, this part of the level doesn't work properly when playing online with a friend, so make sure you're playing either by yourself or with a friend locally if you don't want to have anywhere near as much trouble as we did. As you make your way through the palace, you finally get into a proper lightsaber battle with Darth Maul, and just like the movie, Darth Maul manages to kill Qui-Gon. But Obi-Wan
Hello there.
manages to defeat Maul by cutting him in half.
Friendly reminder that Darth Maul didn't die, he survived and was brought back in the Clone Wars series.
And with that said, the planet Naboo celebrates their new peace, ending Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
We now move on to Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. We begin with Chapter 1, Bounty Hunter Pursuit. Although this level was cut from the original LEGO Star Wars, a finished version of the level was included here in the Complete Saga. Here, we see a now grown-up Anakin and Obi-Wan
Hello there.
on the planet Coruscant with Senator Padme Amidala. She's attacked by a bounty hunter named Zam Whistle, and the two chase after her in speeders. This level is also how most of the vehicle levels play. You're free to move in any horizontal direction, and you can fire your blasters to attack enemies. By pressing the jump button, you can do a loop-de-loop, and if you press it while turning, you'll
Do a barrel roll!
This is also the first chapter where you can find proton torpedoes that are needed to destroy specific objects. After a very chaotic chase through the city, they catch Zam and she's shot in the neck with a toxic dart and killed by another bounty hunter named Jango Fett. This takes us to Chapter 2, Discovery on Kamino. In this chapter, Obi-Wan
Hello there.
flies to the planet Kamino and learns about the clone army being produced there. After that, he heads to see Jango Fett, who starts running away the moment he sees him. After pursuing him through the facility, we come to a boss fight. Jango will shoot you and fire rockets, but you have to use the Force on to send them back at him. All the while, his son Boba Fett is flying their ship, the Slave 1, and firing at you almost constantly. You can have R4-P17 distract the ship by activating these turrets, though. Once Fett is beaten, you stick a tracking device on the hull of the Slave 1, leading to the next chapter, Droid Factory. Obi-Wan
Hello there.
tracks Jango to the remote planet of Geonosis, where he immediately gets captured. Luckily, Anakin and Padme just happen to be flying by.
Yeah, they completely skipped the part of the movie when Anakin and Padme not only go to Naboo, but also return to Tatooine. The Game Boy Advance version actually includes that part as the first level of Attack of the Clones. So as Anakin, you get to kill all of the Tusken Raiders, and not just the men, but the women and the children too.
I can't say I'm too bummed out that the console version doesn't give us the displeasure of watching Anakin act creepy and whine about sand. So they arrive on Geonosis and battle their way through the droid factory, while also running into C-3PO. Most unceremonious introduction ever.
Oh hey, C-3PO is my favorite out of the droids. And not because he was the basis of Orbot's voice either. Well, according to Kirk Thornton anyway.
And once you reach the end, Anakin and Padme are also captured by Jango Fett. This takes us to the next chapter, Jedi Battle. Here, the prisoners are taken to the Geonosian arena to be executed by the Sith Lord Count Dooku. No monsters like in the movie this time though, just a whole lot of droids. But have no fear, for one of the coolest Jedi ever is about to enter the scene, Mace Windu.
And thankfully he doesn't get stuck running in place this time.
Your goal here is to save Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan
Hello there.
while fighting off hordes of battle droids. After you've rescued everybody and destroyed 2 more groups of specific battle droids, Jango Fett will take you on. His attacks are pretty much the same as before, so Fett should go down pretty easy.
By the way, the cutscene that plays after has a visual mistake. So in this level, as well as the last level of Attack of the Clones, Anakin wields a green lightsaber like he did in the movie. But in this cutscene, Obi-Wan has the green lightsaber instead. Not sure how they messed that up, but yeah.
After Fett's taken down, a bunch of clone soldiers come in to save the Jedi. This leads to probably the worst chapter in the entire game, Gunship Cavalry. In the original, this chapter was a sort of arcade-style on-rails shooter. Simple, but fun. In the Complete Saga, it's like the other flying levels. The problem is you have to destroy certain objects by towing these rolling bombs into them, which wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for the giant holes everywhere! It's beyond imprecise, and landing a hit with these things is a stroke of luck. I swear you'd actually need the Force to believe there's any kind of strategy to this. Anyways, that headache brings us to the final chapter of Episode 2, Count Dooku. Here, Anakin and Obi-Wan
Hello there.
chase down Count Dooku and engage him in combat. Halfway through the battle, Anakin loses both his hand and his lightsaber and remains out of the fight. It's here where we finally get to play as Jedi Master Yoda. Also, Obi-Wan is still in the fight, unlike what happened in the movie. Sometimes Dooku will use Force Lightning on whoever you're currently controlling. All you have to do here is switch to the other Jedi and land a hit.
Unless you're playing in multiplayer in which he attacks a random player with Force Lightning and then have the player who isn't getting shocked attack him.
Once Dooku is defeated, he distracts Yoda by trying to crush Anakin and then runs away. He returns to Coruscant and meets with his master, Darth Sidious, who for some reason is already scarred despite that not happening until the next episode. And with that, we've finished Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
This brings us to my personal favorite Star Wars film, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. It begins with Chapter 1, Battle over Coruscant. As the name implies, you fly the Jedi starfighters as Anakin and Obi-Wan
Hello there.
above the planet Coruscant. It's another on-rails arcade shooter, though keep in mind that if you explode, you'll need to restart a certain section over again. Thankfully, it's way more forgiving in the Complete Saga compared to the original LEGO Star Wars. In fact, another reason why this version is better is because you can spin! That's a good trick. This is also the only mission where we found all 10 mini-kits, and collecting them all not only gives you a gold brick, but also 50,000 LEGO studs. We now arrive in Chapter 2, Chancellor in Peril. It's here where Anakin and Obi-Wan
Hello there.
manage to land on General Grievous's command ship and find Chancellor Palpatine.
Who we've never seen until now.
Oops.
Technically, we already saw him at the end of Attack of the Clones.
Spoilers!
This leads to another battle with Count Dooku that's pretty much the same as the battle during Attack of the Clones, only he has less health and a bunch of battle droids assisting him. At the end of the chapter, we then fight against some Magna Guards as General Grievous manages to escape once again. The group then manages to make a crash landing on Coruscant, and this time they weren't flying only half a ship. Moving on to Chapter 3, General Grievous. In this chapter, Obi-Wan
Hello there.
meets up with Commander Cody on the planet Utapau and managed to find General Grievous. Now, originally, there was going to be a level where you chased General Grievous while riding the Boga like in the movie, but this sadly got cut from the original LEGO Star Wars, and it never even made it into the Complete Saga either. So instead, this chapter is literally nothing but a boss fight. Grievous will occasionally try to run away, so that's when you'll have to use these bombs to damage him and get him back onto the main platform. Repeat that 3 more times, and General Grievous is finally defeated. On to Chapter 4, Defense of Kashyyyk. We then join Jedi Master Yoda and the Wookiee Chewbacca on the planet Kashyyyk. As they meet up with the clone troopers, they see Darth Sidious issuing Order 66 to all the clone troopers. As a result, their inhibitor chips activate and are brainwashed into hunting down and destroying the Jedi, because as far as they know, good soldiers follow orders. Yoda and Chewbacca manage to escape while rescuing some other Wookiees along the way. At the end of the chapter, Chewbacca gives Yoda a shuttle, allowing him to leave the planet. We then begin Chapter 5, Ruin of the Jedi. It's here where Yoda and Obi-Wan
Hello there.
return to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant to see the destruction that was caused by a mysterious attacker. It's here where they fight a whole bunch of clone troopers, some of which are disguised as Jedi. And fun fact, that last bit is actually a reference to a deleted scene from the movie. At the end of the chapter, they find a security hologram revealing that Anakin Skywalker has fallen to the dark side and became the Sith Lord known as Darth Vader. Also, the fact that he killed Jedi Master Shaak Ti is yet another reference to a deleted scene from the movie. By the way, one important thing worth mentioning is that this game completely skipped a lot of scenes from the movie. From the battle between Mace Windu and Palpatine, to Darth Vader raiding the Jedi Temple, to Darth Vader destroying the Separatist leaders on Mustafar, and even the battle between Yoda and Darth Sidious. So what happened? Well, I think I have a good idea on why so much of the film wasn't adapted for this game. You see, the original LEGO Star Wars video game was released on March 29, 2005. That's almost 2 months before Revenge of the Sith released in theaters, so I assume this was done to make sure that the game doesn't spoil too much of the movie before releasing in theaters. It's also why the original LEGO Star Wars didn't feature any music from Revenge of the Sith and instead uses music from the original trilogy. The Complete Saga thankfully does use music from Revenge of the Sith, but only during gameplay. That being said, we now reach the final chapter of the episode, Darth Vader. Yep, the final battle between Obi-Wan
Hello there.
and Darth Vader on the planet Mustafar. Though for most of the chapter, it's actually a timed obstacle course where you have to make your way through the level before time runs out or before the floor collapses below you, all while seeing the battle happen during cutscenes. But when you do reach the final platform of the level, you actually get to play the final battle. And what's really awesome is that if you're playing with a friend, you actually get to fight each other, with the chapter ending after someone wins, and this alone makes it my favorite level in the entire game. I also love that each player has an extended health bar so that both players have just as much health as a boss fight. Unfortunately though, there is no alternate ending if Darth Vader wins the fight, though they do add an extra cutscene if that does end up happening. And with that, Darth Vader is finally defeated. We then see Padme finally giving birth to both Luke and Leia. Also, fun fact, in the original LEGO Star Wars, R2-D2 is accompanied by C-3PO instead of Obi-Wan for this cutscene. We then see Darth Sidious, now galaxy-wide known as Emperor Palpatine, retrieving Darth Vader's broken body on Mustafar and then giving him the iconic suit on Coruscant, thus ending Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
At long last, we then come to the one that started it all, Episode 4, A New Hope, or as it was called back in 1977, just Star Wars. Just like the movie, it begins with an Imperial Star Destroyer chasing Princess Leia's starship, the Tantive 4. That starship's main reactor gets shot, forcing it to be disabled. The Star Destroyer then arrives right above the Tantive 4 and therefore starts the mission. We're then placed in control of... wait, Darth Vader? This is an unexpected turn of events.
So, as Darth Vader and an accompanying stormtrooper, you begin your search for the Death Star plans, all while destroying any rebel soldiers that dare stand in your way.
Oh, so that's where Rogue One got it from.
Also, you somehow get C-3PO to help you, despite him clearly being with the enemy. It's also worth mentioning that Darth Vader is the only Dark Force user you unlock through story mode. With the dark side of the Force, you can interact with specific LEGO objects and also use it to attack most enemies. In the case of Darth Vader, he of course uses Force Choke to attack rebel soldiers. After reaching the end of the level, we see Princess Leia inserting her secret message into R2-D2 just before running away. And then... wait, that's it? Where's the rest of the story? Okay, let's talk about what's really going on. You see, the original LEGO Star Wars game only featured the prequel trilogy, but if you obtained True Jedi status for every chapter, you unlocked a bonus mission that takes place during A New Hope.
Just like the Revenge of the Sith tie-in game.
This level basically serves as a tease for the upcoming sequel at the time, LEGO Star Wars 2, the original trilogy. And fun fact, in the original LEGO Star Wars game, Darth Vader had the exact same animations as Anakin Skywalker, while the Stormtroopers had the exact same animations as the Clone Troopers. But starting with LEGO Star Wars 2, the original trilogy, they would have their own unique animations and would carry over into the Complete Saga.
Anyway, let's move on to the actual Chapter 1 of the episode, Secret Plans. Unlike the New Hope level from the original LEGO Star Wars, this time we control Princess Leia and Captain Antilles. After fighting squads of stormtroopers, we then run to Darth Vader. Wait, already? Well, that was quick. Try as you might, he'll constantly deflect your blaster shots using the Force. Instead, use these generators by blowing them up while they're near Vader, and then he'll retreat to another area. In fact, the next room has a window that you can open where you can see Vader force choking more rebel soldiers. Halfway through the level, Princess Leia gives R2-D2 the Death Star plans before running off to hide. And in the next room, we run into this random playable rebel soldier simply known as a rebel friend. At the end of the level, R2-D2 and C-3PO manage to enter the escape pod and head down to the planet Tatooine, where Princess Leia is captured by Darth Vader. C-3PO and R2-D2 are then captured by Jawas while wandering the desert.
Before starting the next chapter, we decided to go back to one of the levels in free play mode. Free play mode allows you to replay a chapter with any character you have unlocked, because most, if not all levels, have specific panels or areas that can only be accessed by specific characters. In the case of this one, we need an Imperial character in order to access this door and find the hidden red brick. This red brick unlocks the extra Force Grapple Leap, allowing Jedi or Sith to use grapple points like the blaster characters can. I mostly wanted to unlock this just to keep the game flowing better, so yeah. Anyway, back to the main story.
In Chapter 2, Through the Jundland Waste, we're finally introduced to Luke Skywalker. Though unlike the movie, Owen and Bearer don't appear in this game. So instead, Luke is the one who purchases R2-D2 and C-3PO. And also unlike the movie, we see the Jawas cheating Luke by stealing the droids while he isn't looking. Luke goes to search for the droids and is suddenly jumped by a Tusken Raider. But then said Tusken Raider is scared away by none other than Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Hello there.
Who is not only older, but he also now goes by the name Ben Kenobi. He then joins Luke as they make their way through the Jundland Waste, you see what I did there? Of Tatooine.
And they murder hundreds of sand people in the process. I guess it's fine when Obi-Wan does it?
Halfway through the level, both Luke and Obi-Wan manage to rescue R2-D2 and C-3PO. And it's here where I found out that playing the game with a younger sibling, which I have none of, could be potentially annoying.
For context, whenever I played this game with my brother back in 2006, every time I tried playing as R2-D2 or C-3PO to activate a panel, he would constantly use Force Push on me as Obi-Wan that also deactivated the droids for a short period of time. Sure, it's funny when you do it, but not so much for the player on the receiving end.
Anyway, near the end of the level, they find some stormtroopers just standing outside of Obi-Wan's house. Not sure why, but there you go. After showing Princess Leia's holographic message to Obi-Wan, Luke then receives his father's lightsaber, therefore concluding Chapter 2.
Oh boy, I can't wait to finally use that lightsaber in the next level.
Moving on to Chapter 3, Mos Eisley Spaceport. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. The group arrives at a stormtrooper blockade, and then Ben uses a mind trick on Launchpad McStorm. Anyway, let's finally try out that new lightsaber. I mean, he does use it, right?
No.
What?
Yeah, I was extremely disappointed when I first learned of this. The game got me really excited at the end of the previous chapter, and tricked me when I got to this chapter. And yes, I know that Luke technically doesn't use the lightsaber in the movie outside of training sequences, but games like Star Wars for the NES and Super Star Wars for the Super Nintendo still allow Luke to use the lightsaber during gameplay as soon as Obi-Wan gives it to him, so I don't understand why every other Star Wars game after that doesn't. And back when I played this game with my brother, he would always make sure that he was the one with the lightsaber, so I had to wait all the way until the Empire Strikes Back before I had a turn with using the lightsaber in the game, but I digress.
Anyway, the group makes their way to Mos Eisley and eventually reach the cantina where they meet Han Solo, and right after he shoots first. And no, Greedo does not say "Makanki" before getting shot. It's here where we finally get to play as Han Solo and Chewbacca. After leaving the cantina, they make their way through Mos Eisley as they reach Docking Bay 94 and meet up with the others. It's here where we have to fight 3 waves of stormtroopers, and on the 3rd wave, you also have to defeat Garandon, or the Imperial Spy as the game calls him, before defeating the last wave of stormtroopers. After that, the group finally takes off aboard the Millennium Falcon and jumps to Alderaan via warp speed. Meanwhile,
fully operational Death Star.
It's here where Grand Moff Tarkin decides to destroy Alderaan using the Death Star super laser.
Also, I swear we can briefly hear him using coherent English during this scene.
Okay then, Chapter 4, Rescue the Princess. The group end up getting pulled into the Death Star via a tractor beam, forcing them to land. After that, Luke and Han manage to disguise themselves as stormtroopers, just like the movie. However, in this version, they can only wear a stormtrooper helmet via lever switch.
Even Chewbacca can. It's so adorable when he tries.
Anyway, after activating this panel and locating Princess Leia, Ben decides to leave the party and shut down the tractor beam, while R2-D2 and C-3PO remain behind. While wearing stormtrooper helmets, you'll be undetected from any ongoing stormtroopers, but if you attack anything or even start building something, you'll then be spotted and therefore start attacking you. After reaching the cell blocks, you finally find Princess Leia. The group then managed to escape via garbage chute, minus the incinerator.
Don't worry, we only light it on Tuesdays.
This takes us to Chapter 5, Death Star Escape. As the name implies, our heroes now need to escape the Death Star while fighting waves of stormtroopers along the way. After reaching the Millennium Falcon, but they need to activate several panels to raise the platform while fighting more waves of stormtroopers. Unfortunately, we see that Darth Vader manages to strike down Ben Kenobi.
And then he becomes more powerful than you could possibly imagine. Literally.
This takes us to the final chapter of the episode, Rebel Attack. It's here where Luke Skywalker and the other Rebel pilots finally attack the Death Star. Besides fighting waves of TIE fighters, you also use proton torpedoes to destroy various parts of the Death Star, including the Death Star itself. Near the end of the level, you then need to fly through the Death Star's trench while avoiding Darth Vader's attacks.
If you're playing the Xbox 360 version of the game, you can get an achievement by not attacking for the entire trench run. Use the Force, Luke.
You've turned off your targeting computer. Is something wrong?
Yeah, there's a kid in here!
Don't look at the camera!
After destroying a group of turrets, you can then finally destroy the Death Star with a proton torpedo. By the way, I love the scene that plays when the Death Star explodes. And with that, the Rebel Alliance celebrates their victory as well as ending Chapter 4, A New Hope. Or just Star Wars for the old-timers.
Up next we have arguably the best episode in the entire series, Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. We begin Chapter 1, Hoth Battle, by seeing a Star Destroyer dropping probe droids on the ice planet of Hoth. Luke sees the droid land, then is attacked by a Wampa. He escapes and is saved from freezing to death by Han Solo. The probe droid manages to send their location to the Empire, who promptly send their forces to invade Hoth. The rebels send out all their forces to defend the base, which, if you remember the movies, means we get to pilot some snow speeders. This is the only chapter in the entire game besides Gunship Cavalry that requires you to use tow cables to drag these bombs around. It's more bearable this time because there's no darn holes in the ground. This time you use the tow cable to trip up the AT-ATs just like in the movie. But unlike the movie where they could clearly destroy them by shooting the head part with their blasters, you can only destroy them by towing the rolling bombs into them. Not as cool if you ask me. At the end of the chapter you come to a large clearing where you have to defeat a certain amount of probe droids, AT-STs, and AT-ATs. After finishing that, the Empire succeeds in destroying the shield generator, which leads to Chapter 2, Escape from Echo Base. Here you take control of Han and Leia, and, well, if you don't know, pay more attention. After fighting some snowtroopers and meeting up with C-3PO and Chewbacca, the group boards the Millennium Falcon and fly out of the base, with Luke Skywalker being not too far behind as he takes off in his X-Wing. This kicks off Chapter 3, Falcon Flight, where for the first time, we actually get to pilot the Millennium Falcon.
Though if you're playing with a friend, the other player controls an X-Wing.
The first area has you surrounded by Star Destroyers. You simply have to blast away their auto turrets to escape. After that, it's a not very safe trip through an asteroid field. The odds of successfully navigating it are...
Never tell me the odds. I'm always unlucky with those.
At the end, you come across...
Oh my god, a giant rock!
which you have to use proton torpedoes to destroy.
As for the cave that they try hiding in, it's mostly an optional bonus area where you can find more studs and a mini-kit.
After destroying the rock, the Falcon hides from the Empire by attaching itself to the rear of the ship, then floating away when they dump their garbage. Hey, space litter is no joke, guys. They then use this opportunity to slip away from the Empire. Little do they know that Boba Fett is secretly following them. We then return to Luke and begin Chapter 4, Dagobah. After a very rough landing, Luke and R2 navigate the swamps searching for Master Yoda, who they find in this unassuming hut. For the rest of the saga, Luke can use his lightsaber.
Finally! It took him long enough.
But for this portion of the level, he can only use force powers if Yoda's riding on his back. Yep. Once Luke gets the hang of it, you come to the dark side tree from the movie and face a vision of Darth Vader.
You can even fight that vision as Yoda if you really want to, completely removing meaning from the original story.
After that, you make your way back to Luke's X-Wing, which is now completely submerged in the swamp. In an actually pretty clever nod to the movie, if you try to lift it as Luke, it won't work. You have to use Yoda. Once the X-Wing is freed from the swamp, Luke says his goodbyes to Yoda and Ben's ghost and takes off, leading into the next chapter, Cloud City Trapped.
Wait, I thought Luke didn't arrive at Cloud City until his friend showed up later. Didn't they jump the gun a bit on this one?
Yeah, I don't get it either. In any case, Luke touches down on Bespin and confronts Darth Vader. You fight him multiple times as you progress throughout the level, while also fighting stormtroopers along the way. At the end of the level, Vader defeats Luke by cutting off his hand, and then reveals the shocking truth we all know and love.
I am your father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate.
No, not that.
Because I am your father.
Your godfather! Ha-ha! Give me 5!
Cosmo, you idiot!
Close enough. He doesn't say the famous line, but the way he illustrates it is pretty funny. Luke refuses his help and drops down through the shaft below. We then begin Chapter 6, Betrayal over Bespin. Here we meet one of Han's old gambling buddies, Lando Calrissian. But oh no, it's a trap set by Darth Vader to, wait a minute, this is backwards. In the movie, this trap was meant to catch Luke, wasn't it? But that's already happened in the previous chapter. Anyway, Han gets frozen in carbonite and taken away by Boba Fett. The first half of the level has you play as Lando, Leia, and Chewbacca as you chase after Fett and recollect a busted C-3PO. Fett gets away and R2 catches up with the group. The goal now is to make your way back to the Millennium Falcon. After reaching the Falcon and flying away, Princess Leia manages to sense Luke through the Force and guides the others to Luke's location. After rescuing Luke, they all manage to escape the Empire and finally jump to lightspeed. Luke gets a new robot hand and they all begin a plan to rescue Han Solo, thus ending Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back.
At long last, we've reached the final episode of the game, and at the time of this game's release, the final episode of the entire saga, Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, starting with Chapter 1, Jabba's Palace. R2-D2 and C-3PO enter said palace, and we are then placed in control of Princess Leia and Chewbacca. When you enter the palace, you'll fight a bunch of Gamorrean guards that infinitely respawn if you don't close the hatches they appear from.
You can also build these jukeboxes to distract the guards by having them rock out with their axes.
Also in this level is where you can find the helmet that Princess Leia wears with her bounty hunter disguise. As a result, you can now throw thermal detonators, which are exclusive to bounty hunters. With these, you can destroy these specific silver bricks that can only be destroyed by said detonators. Later in the level, you eventually reunite with Luke, C-3PO, and R2-D2. After reaching Jabba's throne room, they finally rescue Han Solo from the carbonite. But oh no, it's another trap! But unlike the movie, it's not just Luke who falls into the Rancor pit. Han, Chewie, R2, and 3PO also join him as well. And then we have Luke fight the Rancor just like in the movie. Or we would have if he didn't glitch out while we were playing the game online. As a result, we instead were stuck with the droids, Han, and Chewie.
Huh. Did not realize invisibility was a Jedi power.
Well, it technically is in the GBA version of the original LEGO Star Wars. Anyway, the Rancor can't be damaged by normal means. Instead, you spawn some Gamorrean guards to have the Rancor baited into grabbing them. When the Rancor reaches a specific part of the area, you destroy this specific thing to cause rocks to fall on it. And for the final hit, you can pull these levers to finally crush it, exactly how it happened in the movie. Jabba, now enraged by this defeat, decides to then take everyone prisoner and also make Leia a slave. Jabba then takes the group to Chapter 2, the Great Pit of Carkoon, where he plans to feed them to the Sarlacc, but Jabba foolishly underestimated the powers of a Jedi as Luke springs into action. Literally. Luke, Lando, Han, and Chewie then fight their way through Jabba's forces and also defeats Boba Fett in the process. Don't worry, he survives too.
Jeez, how long has he been trapped in the Sarlacc pit for?
Only a couple of days as far as I know.
Yeah, it was barely an inconvenience, really.
Anyway, R2-D2 manages to rescue Leia, and the group manages to defeat Jabba's sail barge and escape the carnage. This takes us to Chapter 3, Speeder Showdown. Yeah, they completely skipped the part when Luke returns to Dagobah and instead jumps straight to the mission on Endor, though instead of the small rebel strike team, we only see Luke and Leia for this chapter. This chapter mostly consists of Luke and Leia chasing down scout troopers on speeder bikes while destroying various generators using an AT-ST. At the end of the chapter, they destroy this Imperial landing platform using an AT-AT and basically setting it to self-destruct. Pretty simple chapter, really. Chapter 4, The Battle of Endor, finally shows Luke and Leia reunited with Han, Chewie, R2, and 3PO. After Chewie triggers this one trap, they end up getting ambushed by the Ewoks. But when 3PO shows up, everything is all good because the Ewoks worship him. Yep, no hostility this time, unlike the movie. 3PO then explains their situation and the war to the Ewoks, and they're then made part of the tribe. Luke decides to leave the group to go confront Darth Vader, while everyone else decides to attack the Death Star's shield generator. This time, they're joined by this particular Ewok, known as Wicket.
Played in the movie by young Warwick Davis.
This chapter mostly consists of you navigating the Forest while fighting off some Imperial forces. At the end of the chapter, you enter the shield bunker and sabotage it. After disabling this shield and setting charges, the group escapes the bunker in the nick of time as the shield generator is destroyed. We now come to my favorite chapter of the original trilogy, Chapter 5, Jedi Destiny. Luke finally returns to Darth Vader and both head to the Death Star to meet with the Emperor, but instead of having a duel between father and son like in the movie, it immediately jumps to the part when the Emperor attacks Luke with Force Lightning. We then see Darth Vader finally redeem himself as Anakin Skywalker and stops the Emperor from attacking his son. As a result, the father and son team up to battle the final boss of the game, Emperor Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious. He easily has the most health out of every boss in the game, so expect this one to be a bit longer than usual. Like the fight with Count Dooku, he'll occasionally use Force Lightning on one of the players in which the player not getting shocked needs to attack him. During the fight, he'll occasionally run away and send his royal guards to attack our heroes. After a long chase and duel, the Emperor is finally defeated as Anakin throws him into the shaft, just like the movie. Anakin finally gets to see Luke with his own eyes and dies peacefully. Luke then leaves the Death Star with Anakin's body, ending Chapter 5. At long last, we reach the final chapter of the episode, and the final chapter of the entire game, Into the Death Star. It's here where we take control of the Millennium Falcon, this time piloted by Lando Calrissian, while the other player controls an X-Wing, presumably piloted by Wedge Antilles. This is also the only chapter that Admiral Akbar appears in, so yeah. The chapter begins with destroying a fleet of Imperial Star Destroyers using proton torpedoes. After that, you finally fly into the Death Star. After making your way to the Death Star's core, you destroy some of these electric turrets to deactivate the core shield. After that, you can finally destroy the core using a proton torpedo. The chapter ends with you finally escaping the Death Star as it continues to explode. The Millennium Falcon flies out in the nick of time right as the Death Star finally explodes. The story ends with Luke Skywalker burning Darth Vader's armor, but unlike the movie, we see Anakin Skywalker's ghost rising from the remains, and I don't know why, but I always liked this visual aspect of the cutscene. The game ends with the Rebel Alliance celebrating their victory at the Ewok village on Endor. We even see the Force spirits of Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Anakin celebrating as well, and thus ending Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, and the entire saga, at least for now anyway.
And at last, we finally conclude the story mode for this game, but it's not over yet. On to the bonus content! For starters, this game has a custom character creator that allows you to create your very own playable character. Hey look, I'm a Lego figurine now!
Meanwhile, I'm pretty boring by comparison. I've simply recreated the very character I'm dressed as in this video. It's also worth mentioning that the custom character reuses the exact same animations as Ben Kenobi, though if you're using a blaster, they reuse Lando Calrissian's animations, specifically when attacking. But despite that, it's still pretty fun to make your own character.
If you manage to collect enough gold bricks, you can then unlock up to 6 different bonus missions, 4 of which we already talked about. The 5th bonus mission is Lego City, a secret mission that originated from LEGO Star Wars 2, the original trilogy. The goal of this mission is pretty simple. As you're exploring the city, you need to destroy everything in your path, use the Force on every possible thing in the city, and ride as many vehicles as you can. And you do all of this for the purpose of collecting 1 million studs. And there's exactly 1 million studs this level. No more and no less. Select them all and you finish the level.
The 6th bonus mission is Newtown. It's basically a sequel to the LEGO City level, exclusive to the Complete Saga, and it has the exact same goal as the previous mission, only this time set in, well, a new town with different vehicles.
But wait, there's more. Once you unlock every bounty hunter in the game, you get access to a series of bounty hunter missions, accessed through this door with Jabba's face over it. The goal of each of these missions is to find a certain character in a stage within the allotted time. It's a good time if you like a fun challenge.
You're free to use any of the playable bounty hunters for these missions, except Jango Fett and Zem Wessel for some odd reason. Pretty disappointing, to be honest. Another thing worth mentioning is that in the room with the bonus missions, you can find not only a trailer for this game, but also a trailer for LEGO Indiana Jones The Original Adventures, or LEGO Indiana Jones The Video Game as it was first called at the time. If you watch the latter, you can unlock Indiana Jones himself as a secret bonus character for this game, though despite clearly already having a unique face design for him in the character portrait, they decide to reuse Han Solo's face for the actual character model for some odd reason.
Each episode also contains 2 specific bonus challenges tied to each episode, one being a character bonus challenge, and the other being a mini-kit bonus challenge. Much like the LEGO City and News Town missions, the main goal is to collect 1 million studs, but unlike those missions, there are more than enough LEGO studs needed to finish these challenges. You also collect them much faster than you would in LEGO City or New Town. For the character bonus challenges, you control any unlocked playable character, but for the mini-kit bonus challenges, you instead control any mini-kit you manage to complete while playing. As you can see, we only managed to complete one of those mini-kits, the Droid Attack Gunship, so this is the one we use while recording this challenge. But of course, there's one last thing to talk about with this game, and that is 2-player arcade mode.
Hey dudes, did someone say arcade mode?
Hold that thought, Hawks.
You will.
Ah! Wait, what's going on?
I wish Hawks was immune to mind tricks!
Whoa! What just happened?
I just saved you, Hux.
From who?
Him!
You're going to pay for that, Fairly OddGamer.
Not if I can help it!
This is going to be fun.
Ah!
So, who won?
Yes.
I guess you both have the high ground.
Anyway, 2-player arcade mode allows you to compete with a friend in either collecting enough studs before your opponent does, defeating a certain amount of enemies before your opponent does, or a simple duel in which you fight against each other.
Just be careful though, because it's one of the most unbalanced versus modes I've ever seen in a video game. Some characters are just objectively better than others. For example, dark side characters can constantly use Force Choke or Force Lightning on their opponent, certain characters are weak to Jedi mind tricks, and the ghost characters are completely invincible.
Wow, so Obi-Wan wasn't kidding about that more powerful than you could possibly imagine stuff.
Well, that certainly was an experience.
You're telling me, dude, the Force is a most excellent and powerful ally.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to see what's up. Later, dudes!
You know, the Force really is strong with him.
So, what did you think of LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga?
Well, it's a bit overwhelming having to go through all these episodes in one day, but even then, I still think it's a pretty fun game. It's pretty cool getting to see each of the Star Wars movies condensed in the form of tiny bricks, even if they don't show every single scene in each of the movies. Though it's nice to see some of the most memorable moments from the movies. Graphically, the game looks pretty good, and some of the cutscenes are actually pretty hilarious in regards to its presentation. With little to no dialogue from the characters, it still gives you a good idea as to what's happening at certain points from the movies. That is, of course, if you're at least familiar with the movies beforehand. As for the overall gameplay, I think that's what makes it more memorable in my opinion. It's always fun getting to play as certain characters, whether for ability's sake, or just for the sake of enjoyment. It's also fun getting to ride the vehicles as well as getting to destroy anything as much as possible, being that they're Legos and all. I even enjoyed some of the bonus levels, except of course the original Pod Racers level. Yeah, this version is definitely better than the original. It's also cool that the game also features the classic John Williams movie score that we all love and adore. It just feels right to me. Overall, LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga is a fantastic game, and I definitely recommend this game to any Star Wars fan, or even any LEGO fan for that matter. It's a game that's worth your time and effort to beat. And if you ever want to complete this game, then by all means, give it a try when you get a chance.
This game is definitely my childhood. As my first true introduction to Star Wars, I have so much to thank this game for. And fun fact, the developers actually intended to try and get kids interested in the source material through this game. And if you ask me, I definitely think it worked. It worked on me, after all. From the simple but fun gameplay, to the dozens of playable characters, to the very entertaining depiction of the story, there's truly something for everyone to enjoy with this game. While this may not be my favorite LEGO Star Wars game, it's still the one that started it all and deserves the respect and admiration it received. It truly is a classic Star Wars game for all ages to enjoy while still keeping with the LEGO theme. The Force truly is strong with this one.
Growing up a young Star Wars fan, this game had it all. Tons of playable characters, fun and creative level design, and playing through LEGOized versions of some of the greatest movies of all time. You could just tell there was a serious amount of love put into this game. Every bit of it oozes with classic LEGO charm and genuine affection for Star Wars' incredible legacy. From an adult gamer's perspective, it might come off as a bit simplistic, but honestly, who even cares? This game's meant to be a nostalgic joy factory, and it more than succeeded. As my personal intro to Star Wars games, it was the best possible starting point. This was my first step into a much larger world.
Well, Seth, we finally got to visit your galaxy far, far away. So, are you free to go now?
For now. But you know I'll be back at some point.
I'm sure you will.
Now, if you excuse me, I gotta get back to playing Stellar Blade on my Sony PlayStation 5.
I guess I'd better go too. I'll be back again in March.
And you know I'll be ready for that. I'm the Fairly Odd Gamer, and I wish you all good luck for the rest of your day or night, wherever you are. Take care, everyone.
Oh, hello there! This is Scrooge McDuck, and I'm here for another Patreon shoutout. If you want to receive a shoutout, be sure to go into this show's Patreon page. In addition to exclusive access to Discord, as well as extra bonus features, your name will also be seen right here next to me, like Luke Jeffers and Scarlet the Hedgehog. Thanks for watching the video, supporting the channel, and keeping me bunny bin filled. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm going to have to check up on Launchpad. It appears that somebody's giving him that Jedi mind trick or whatever.